I chose to do my video over Competency 5, Establishing a Safe and Productive Classroom Climate. I would consider myself a caring, giving, and determined person, which is why I picked this competency. I feel as though it's very important to have this type of climate in my future classroom. When it comes to teaching, it isn't all just about the education. We really have to set the tone for student relationships, teacher relationships, and even the relationships the students have with themselves. We can't just lecture and teach the material. We really have to teach them about personal values and things that interest them and help them find their way, because this time is very hard. Middle school and high school, all the students are changing and they're going through things that they don't understand. Students are not only going through physical changes at this time, but they're also going through emotional changes, which really affects their self-esteem. And self-esteem is a critical component to the learning process. Peer interaction is very important because it's one of the biggest factors of their self-esteem. They want the approval of their peers. They want the acceptance of their peers. And so as teachers, we can really help this along by giving them the chance to interact with one another through cooperative learning. This cooperative learning gives them the chance to talk to each other and learn about each other. And most of the time, students at this time feel as though they're the only people going through these problems and nobody understands. If they get the chance to interact with their peers, they'll realize that they're not the only ones going through this and they have somebody to talk to. Along with this, they can also learn about each other and feel as though they're part of a group. And whenever they turn in an assignment that each one of them had a hand in, they'll feel like that assignment was successful because of their part. Another way to keep your classroom productive is to let the students move around. At this time in their life, they're changing and they're growing, and they have these random spurts of energy that they just can't get rid of. Sometimes, the students fidget in class, it seems like they're not paying attention, and that's what teachers mistake it for, is that they just don't want to learn. When in reality, they just really need the chance to move around to get it out. And so doing stuff like moving around, playing games, going from group to group, just so the students can get out of their chair is always a good option. Also at this time, students are suffering from identity versus confusion. They're not really sure who they want to be, and I feel like as a teacher, it's our job to kind of get to know them on a personal level, maybe give them the chance in class to show their creativities and their passion. That way we can help guide them to the life path that they have and who they are on the inside. Along with guiding the students, teachers need to make sure that their students know they care about them. They need to know that they accept them for who they are, no matter what color their skin, where they're from, or what their passions are. All the students need to know that the teacher wants them to succeed. And the teacher also needs to make sure that they pay attention to all their students equally, no matter if you have attention seekers or the quiet kid in the back of the class. I feel like one of the biggest factors in having a safe and productive classroom climate is having respect among the students. If the students don't respect each other, there can be bullying and threats, and the student that's being bullied isn't going to be able to focus on what you're teaching. They're going to feel unsafe in your environment. As a teacher, you need to have rules, and you need to make sure that the students not only follow the rules, but they understand them thoroughly. Also, stay away from competitions where there's only one winner. You should try to have competitions where people get rewarded for having the right answer. If you always only have one winner, students can get down on themselves and feel as though they can't succeed. They'll get frustrated and feel like, what's the point? Because they're never going to be number one. Seating arrangements are also very important. Don't stick the students one by one in front of the projector. That's not effective. You need to make sure that the students can interact with one another, so put them in pairs of 2s or groups of 4. Make sure that their desks are beside each other. That way they can bounce ideas off of each other and experience the way that others think, and that will also broaden their way of thinking. I personally would like to have my classroom in a horseshoe. That way not only the students would get to work with the people that are beside them, but they could talk back and forth across the room. We could have a real class interaction. As a teacher, you really need to make sure that you know what you're saying and how you're saying it. You need to be conscious of the way that it could come off to the students. All the students might perceive what you say differently, so you want to really strive to say everything positively. If you're asking questions in class and a student answers one incorrectly, you should tell them, "Good try," or "I appreciate your effort," or "Maybe you'll get it next time." That way the students don't feel like you're just shooting them down with negativity, like, no, that's not the right answer, and that could scare them and make them not feel like they want to participate next time for fear that they'll be embarrassed or feel that they failed. In our textbook, it states a few things that help keep that positivity level up, like marking the correct answers on the homework instead of the wrong ones, using a correcting pen that's not red colored, reward positive behavior instead of negative behavior, send positive notes home instead of always just getting on to the bad students, the students that do things wrong. Teach the students about cooperative learning procedures. And also, check the roll at the end of the week and ask yourself if there's any other students that should be given some special positive attention during the next week. As a teacher, you also need to make sure that your students know you have high expectations of them. Don't just let them go to the point where they can pass and slide by. Make sure that they know you know that they can succeed, that they can go above and beyond whatever they thought they could before. Also, make sure that you have enthusiasm for what you're doing. If you have enthusiasm and you're excited about what you're teaching them and they'll see how happy you are about it, that will rub off on them and they'll get excited and enthusiastic too. Also, make sure that your classroom matches the way that you feel about your students. Make sure that you have motivational posters up where they can see them. Also, always make sure that you have up your classroom rules, your classroom expectations. All of those need to be somewhere in visible sight. If they're just posted at the back of the room, it really doesn't help remind the students of the classroom atmosphere they need to have. There are so many puzzle pieces to having a safe and productive classroom climate. Students at this time need their friends. They need positive interaction. They need positive opportunities. They need somebody to help guide them and understand what they're going through and how to handle it. And I feel like teachers really take on that role entirely. And most of all, I feel like cooperative learning can help all aspects of having a safe and productive classroom. It teaches the students to respect one another. It teaches students to see other people's point of views. It gives them the chance to talk to each other about things that they might have not thought others were going through. And also, I feel as though it might help make friends with people that they never thought they'd be friends with. Maybe shine some light on the discrepancies that they had with other people. I feel like cooperative learning can be that key. You just need to make sure that every time you create a group, you switch it up. Give them a chance to learn something new.